Okay, in this lesson today, you are going to learn how to create your own map using some clever software that you find within Google Sheets. So we'll be working with a spreadsheet today. You're also going to learn how to read the map using some descriptive sentences that are quite important and will help you describe a pattern that you are seeing on a map. Now, obviously, maps in geography are used in all kinds of different situations. But one thing all maps have in common is they are there to show you something about places somewhere in the world. And for example, in Primary 7, you may remember looking at Ordnance Survey maps, and you would have learned how to use them to navigate and understand the landscape. Well, in today's lesson, we're going to look at some very different maps that use color, like the one we can see here, to show you a pattern of something. So more about that in a second. Before we get to that, let's just have a little think about what we've done so far. So we've started by looking at this idea that there is a variation in development across the world. And in the first lesson, you were thinking about that visually by comparing and contrasting different photographs. And you were starting to realize when you were looking at these photographs just what a difference there was in different parts of the world between the way people lived their lives. In the second lesson, you were looking at some data on 4 different countries: the United Kingdom, Brazil, India, and Mali. And you were then asked to describe those differences using that information that you got from the internet. And then you were also encouraged to try to think about why those differences exist. And of course, a lot of that is to do with this idea of wealth. And that's where I want to start with today's lesson, because on your screen, you can see a map of the wealth of countries across the world. I'm just going to zoom in on that a bit larger. And you can see that each country has a color, and that we're starting with very light blue and it's moving up to very dark purple. And the first thing you'll notice is that where countries have low levels of wealth, so for example, under $2,000 per year, and that's per person, then they appear as this light blue color. So we can see them here, over here, over here. Countries that have over $50,000 US a year, or where the average person has that amount of wealth, would appear as a dark purple, and we can see the United States there, Norway and Sweden over here. So the darker the color, the higher, or the darker the shade, I should say, the higher the value represented. And what we can see when we map this information is a distinct pattern. So what jumps out straight away is that the lighter shades are largely all clustered in Africa, with some in Central Asia. The darker shades are concentrated in Europe and North America. Asia has a mixture of light and dark shades, as does South America. Now, if I asked you to describe the pattern on that map, this is what you would probably write. First thing is you would identify every continent, and you could quite accurately say that Europe and North America are almost entirely made up of countries that have more than that amount of wealth, more than 50,000. It would be true to say that South America, if we just have a look, most of the countries are between 20 and 50. So that's these 2 colors of purple here. And that most of the countries have that. But there is one exception in the middle. So I've pointed that out in my description. I have said there is one country in the center with a low GDP. And because it's that color, that light blue color, it's between 5 to 10,000. Now, I just happen to know that's Bolivia. If you didn't know that this country here was Bolivia, then you could quite accurately just say that it was in the center of South America, and that would be a true statement. Okay? Moving on to Asia. Asia has a very wide range, with some countries being very low, between 2 to 5,000. And we can first of all see there is a wide range. And this color here, there are some like this one here, and I happen to know that's Afghanistan. If you didn't know that that was Afghanistan, you could just call that Central Asia. And others are very high, like Japan, with over 35,000. So when I go and look at Japan, I will see there's Japan there, right here, there's South Korea right there, and both of these countries have very high. So that paragraph's all accurate. Now, I've not done Africa because one of your tasks in today's lesson will be to describe the pattern in Africa. Now, when we then look at life expectancy, our second map, what we first of all see, okay, there's a different color being used, but we can see a very similar pattern. Once again, Africa seems to have the lowest colors. So if we look at our key, we can see that the low life expectancies are all in Africa. We can see the highest are in Europe and North America, and we can see that Asia and South America are mixed. As a matter of fact, I literally copied and pasted the paragraph above down below, and all I had to change was the wealth values for the life expectancy values. The only one slight difference I had to do is there is one country, now instead of it being Bolivia this time, Bolivia is quite low, but actually there's one country that's even lower, this one up here. So you could call that, you could say in the northern part of South America, there's one country with a very low life expectancy of under 67.5 or under 69.9. I happen to know that's Guyana, so I've made that point in that sentence. Once again, Asia's got a wide range, Afghanistan's got the lowest, Japan's got the highest, and we're going to do Africa in another part of the lesson. Okay, so that is to show you there is a pattern, and that doesn't matter which thing I map, whether it was amount of access to clean water, literacy rates, or the two that I have mapped, I would always see similar patterns, okay? Now let's have a little look at Africa, because Africa's is very interesting because it has such a wide variation in wealth and life expectancy. And that's what we're going to look at in today's main skill. So in this first task, you're being asked to create a map. And you'll need to open up the spreadsheet that you'll find attached in this assignment. And when you open your spreadsheet, one of your two maps you'll find has already been done for you. So let's just wait for this spreadsheet to open. Now, spreadsheets are generally used to analyze data and lay it out. And we can see over here on the left-hand side that we've got all of the countries in Africa, from Algeria at the letter A, all the way down to the bottom with Zimbabwe at the letter Z. So that's, I've just alphabetically sorted all the countries in Africa. And next to that, I've got the GDP. That's the wealth per person. And I've written down the amount. And I've created this map here that shows you the GDP in each of the countries. And what's great is I can hover over any of these if I select the map. So there's Libya. I can find out that it's got 15,900. I can see in the middle, there's the Congo, 1,100. Down here, this small little country, Lesotho, 2,800. Got a tiny little dark country in here, Equatorial Guinea, that's very high compared to the countries around it. Okay, right. So you can right now, if you wish, just copy that map straight across into your main document and you'll have completed that task. But what you can do, if you don't want to do that straight away, is we're now got to create a map for the life expectancy in Africa. So let me just, for the moment, reduce the size of this map. I'm just going to reduce in size and move it to one place over here. Okay, because I now want to create a map showing how long people live. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first of all highlight by clicking on my mouse and dragging it down so all of the countries in Africa are highlighted all the way down to Zimbabwe. So now they're all highlighted. Step 2. You want to click on this little icon over here and it's going to insert a chart. So one click and a chart will appear. There we go. Now, at the moment, it's defaulted to a histogram. That is not what I want. So I'm going to go over here to my chart editor, which should have opened up when I created this graph. If it didn't open up, then if you hit the 3 little dots and you click Edit Chart, and that will open up this chart editor. I'm going to change the chart type by clicking on this down button and scrolling down to Maps, and I'm going to select this type of map here. Okay, and that's going to create a map of the whole world, but Africa, you'll notice, has been done. Okay, now there's a few little things I want to do next because I don't need the whole world map, I just want Africa. So I am now going to go to Customize, and I'm going to open up Chart Style, and I can play around with my background colors if I wish, but I'm just going to leave them as they are. I'm going to click on the geo, And instead of the region being the world, I'm going to click on it and just select Africa. And what it does is it will remove the rest of the world and just show me Africa. Now, I can hover over any of these and find the life expectancy. Now, one final thing I want to do is, because these maps are most effective when you select shadings with your lowest values being a very light shade. So to show you that, you can use any of these color schemes. I could use light blue to dark blue, light red to dark red. I'm going to go with the light red to dark red, but once again, you can use any of the colors as long as you have the same shade. So my minimum is going to be this light pink. My middle value, I'm going to go for this one here. And my maximum value, I'm going to go for the darkest shade. So I've got my low countries, my middle ranked countries, and my countries with the highest. Now I could change that just to show you. I could go with light blue, mid blue, and dark blue. And that's how my map would look. Okay, the colors change, but what I can see very, very quickly by using this technique is the countries that are very high, that have long life expectancies. They're all up in this top northwestern corner of Africa, joining Europe. I can also see along the Mediterranean here, Egypt and Libya also have very high. So the northern region of Africa, these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 countries, all have very long life expectancies. I can see that the central region of Africa, or sub-Saharan Africa as we call it, is where we find the cluster of very low countries with low life expectancies. I can also find central or the heart of Africa also being quite low, so the Congo and South Sudan. If I go into southern Africa, I can find they're a bit longer, like Namibia 64, South Africa 64, Botswana 69. Finally, when I look here, I can see Lesotho is an exception. And why is it an exception? Because it's actually quite low compared to its surrounding countries. Likewise, up here, Rwanda is quite high compared to its surrounding countries. Okay, now that's going to be quite important in a second when you complete your final task. What you've now got, however, is 2 maps that you are ready to copy. This one here, which I shrunk down earlier, and the one on life expectancy. You're ready to copy them and bring them into your main document. You are then asked to give them an appropriate title. So a title should say Map of Africa showing, and whatever it shows. The second question, and you're going to get marked for this, is how well you describe your pattern. Now, I talked at length at the start of today's lesson about how to describe a pattern for the world, how to give amounts. Now, for Africa, you will have, if you listen closely, I was just talking about Africa a second ago, about the north area, the heart of Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, and the south, and I was picking out some exceptions. That is how you want to describe your pattern. Identify regions that are high, like the northern coast or the western coast or the center or the south. Identify a region that is low. Name some countries as examples of areas that are high and that are low. Okay. Identify some countries that are maybe different from those countries that are around them. And the key thing here, and this is the final thing I'm going to say, use data in your answer. So when you're describing, give actual amounts. So if you're talking about the GDP, give me some wealth amounts in dollars. If you're talking about the life expectancy, talk about the ages that people are living to in different parts of Africa. Okay? And that's going to be marked to show you how well you've understood the idea of describing a pattern from a map. Good luck.